Hi, it's Starno with Whale Recipes, and this is my review of the Ninja Foodi Dual Heat Air Fry Oven. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this unboxed, but I wanted to show you the exterior of the box. It mentions that it can get up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got heat on the top and bottom, unlike the previous version. Also, this one has increased capacity over the previous one. So I'm going to go ahead and get it unboxed now. Alright, so let me show you the power cord. It is a 3-prong grounded power cord. Looks like it might be a few feet long. And I'm going to show you some of the accessories that came with it. This is the air fry basket. Comes with a wire rack. And it has like a sear plate that is pretty heavy and sturdy for like searing and crisping things. That's pretty neat. There's a drip pan in the bottom. I'll show you that in a moment when we get inside. But as far as paperwork, there's like some warning thing here. Then there's the manual. Looks like it's got 2 or 3 languages of manual, if you like to read your manual in multiple languages. Also, there's a quick start guide and inspiration guide. And inside of here, there are a bunch of recipes. So it looks like, after they give you some basic instructions on how to use the cooker, then we get into recipes, and they've got lots of pictures. So this goes on, and then there's like a chart at the end that just gives you kind of like a guide. So this is about 48 pages, 48, 49 pages of information about how to use the cooker and recipes and such. So that's some pretty neat stuff there. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this cooker. It has 1800 watts of power, and with that, with dual heat on the top and bottom, even though it's larger than the previous one, it's still kind of slim. So 1800 watts, heat on top and bottom, it should be able to do some superb quick work as far as heating things up real hot and fast. So this cooker, the design and what its power rating and all is, it has a lot of potential. And this cooker's temperature ranges are between 85 degrees Fahrenheit up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Not 450 like a lot of cookers might go to, but 500. So, between 85 to 500, you can do everything from down into your dehydration up to your air frying and your pizzas and such. I would suspect, at 85, you might be able to even, maybe attempt to proof your dough if you want to try and dehydrate at 85 degrees. I don't know how that would work out. It doesn't have a proof setting, so, don't try that. That's just a joke. But, 85 is pretty low, to be able to go really low and go all the way up to 500. And it can do everything from dehydration up through like your air frying your pizzas. Again, there is no proof setting though. Don't want to mislead anyone there. But a lot of versatility in this cooker. But something I wanted to point out, they make sure to mention that since it can get so hot, they recommend that you not use any oils if you're using a temperature above 400 degrees Fahrenheit, because that might be a smoke issue if you go higher than 400 with some oils. And of course, any oil that you want to use a high smoke point oil when you do use oil and you're using it at like 400 and below. Now I want to talk about some capacity and other details about the cooker. I'm just going to be looking at my notes here while I talk to you. But this cooker can toast up to 9 slices of bread. So it's it's like a single layer type of cooker. You can't stack things, but it can do up to 9 slices of bread. The weight of this cooker is 21.27 pounds precisely. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you around the cooker a little bit so that you can get a look at what's going on, because this cooker has one neat feature that I'll show you. Basically, well, you see the front, you see the sides have, some vents. Now on the back is where it gets a little interesting, because on the back, if I can get this turned around, you can see that there's a little thing on the bottom here, kind of like a little foot on the bottom there. And what that does, that allows you to, when you're not using it and when this cooker is really fully cooled off, you can use these handles on the side and push it up like that to stand the cooker up. So like, you know, you want to stand it up in the corner, out of the way when you're not using it. And then when you're ready to use it again, just drop it on back down and you can start cooking again. Now I'm giving you a close-up view of the cooker. I'm going to open up here. On the side here, it's got a little handle to open the door. And inside, you basically see 1, 2, 3 rack levels. And we'll go into the details of how to deal with those and the accessories later on. But here's the pull-out drip tray. And so that drip tray, you do have to open the door to get access to it. Now, over here on the front of the console, and we'll go into these in a moment, but you've got like a mode button for dual heat cooking, and these are your dual heat options. And then you've got a mode button for your air fry options, and those are your air fry options there. You've got a time button, you've got a temp button, you've got a knob that, you know, can adjust and also press like a button to start and, you know, pause your cooks. And you've got a light button and a power button. When we go inside, we see to the right the air fry fan over there on the right side, and we see we've got 3 heating elements on the bottom. If we look up top, we've got let me see if I can feel 1, 2, yeah, I feel 3 heating elements up top as well. So 3 heating elements on the top and the bottom. I am not seeing a light inside of there unless the light is somewhere that I don't see, but we have a light button, so we have to have a light. So we do have a light. We definitely got a light because we got a light button, but I just don't see where it's at, but I'm sure it'll come on later. Alright, so now we've got the new dual heat air fry oven next to the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven. This one has dual heat too, it just doesn't have it in the name. But basically, of course, the XL is, you know, dwarfs this one, you know, so it's much bigger. But I'm just going to do some quick measurements just to kind of show you the differences. If I go side to side here, it's about 17 inches. I go side to side on this new one here, it's about 17 and a half, so a little more width there. Now when I go front to back, and I'm doing this from the handle, so we get, and the hump in the back also I'm including, so we get the full size front to back of everything. We're looking at about is it maybe 19 and a half inches. Whereas with this one, much smaller, much smaller. We're talking about from front to back, maybe about 14 inches. So the XL is much bigger front to back. However, we do have the fan guard in mind because my XL is one of the original ones off the production line where they had the fans in them. But height-wise, we see that the XL is about 13 inches. Whereas this new one is only, you know, maybe 8.5, you know, and that's being generous. Really, it's like, really like 8.25 maybe. And going inside the XL, we've got a front to back hitting that fan guard of 12 inches and a side to side of about, let's see, about 14 and a half inches side to side, so 12 and 14 and a half. Whereas with this new one, when we go front to back inside, we've got 13 inches, so we've got 1 inch more front to back on the interior. Even though this one's longer, the fan guard and all holds up the works a bit. Now side to side, we've only got about 13.5 inches. And that's going to be a very major difference there. And I'm going to show you why here. Because I'm going to take a 13-inch bake pan with no handles. Now, in this 13-inch bake pan with no handles, we know from so many videos, fits fine in the Ninja Foodi XL. But in this one here, it will not fit. 13-inch bake pan with no handles will not fit into this dual heat one. It just won't go. It just barely misses. And this way is not going to work for you either. So you can't use a 13-inch bake pan in there. It's just not going to work. So that's something to keep in mind with this cooker. You're going to need a pan that's a little smaller to, do anything that you want to use a bake pan for. Now, the air fry basket for this dual heat one is just a tad smaller than the XL basket from side to side. It's a little longer in width, but from side to side, I think that the XL wins on the sides there. And when we look at the just regular grate here, the XL, it's a little wider. It's not as long, but it's a little wider. And we've got like this, like this grill pan. Mine's a little messy, but grill pan with the bake, and they give you like 2 of these bake pans with the XL. But with this sear plate that, you can set things on, actually this pan, because this pan doesn't go to full width, is a little smaller than the sear plate. So it's a little smaller than the sear plate. And so now we're going to do an initial plug-in of the cooker. So here we go with our initial plug-in. And when you initially plug it in, there's nothing that really happens till we hit power. And now that we've got power, the display lights up some. And I did want to mention that the time indicator says the words flip when you're done with the cook and things cool down to a point that you can flip things upward like so. So, whoops, accidentally as I was flipping it up. Oh, as I flipped it up, at first I accidentally hit the knob to start cooking, but as it reached, its peak going upward, it automatically shut itself off. That's pretty cool. And let's measure top to bottom when we have it upright. We see that it's about a little under 16 inches, about 15.5 inches there when you flip it upright, so pretty nice. Now I just want to point out a few things regarding the accessories in the cooker. Generally speaking, you're always going to have the sear plate on the bottom, and you especially want to have it on the bottom when you're doing dual heat functions, or they say that the cooker won't be able to track temperature properly. On the middle rack, you always want your wire rack, generally speaking, and up high you will have your air fry basket. I'm not saying that you have all 3 at the same time. I'm saying when you use whichever specific accessory. If you're going to use the sear plate, you're probably going to have it on the bottom. If you're going to have the wire rack, middle. If you're going to have the air fry basket, up high. Now I'm going to check the time for toast when the cooker is cool, so that we have that for comparison's sake when the cooker is hot. So basically it's already on the air oven side of the house, and I just scroll down to toast, and it's got 4 slices at shade 3. So let's say that I hit the time temp and I go down to 2 slices and I take it up to shade 4. So 2 slices, shade 4, and I press the knob to hit start. It's 3 minutes 38 seconds, and so I just basically stop that to cancel it out, but we're going to remember that. Alright, so I've got my iGrill 2 temperature probe there on the rack, and I've got the sear plate in because I'm going to test the dual heat function. You're supposed to have the sear plate in when you do that, so doing it just like I would during like a normal cook or something, even though I may not have the rack on during a normal cook, just to test getting up to that high 500 degree mark. So I'm going to get the cooker turned on. I'm going to hit this side of the house where it's dual heat, and going to leave it on the sear crisp. And I'm going to leave it on 30 minutes of cook time, but I'm going to up that temp all the way up to the max of 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And so now I'm going to go ahead and hit start. They say during this preheat it's about 5 to 10 minutes of preheat for the dual heat side. When you do the air fry side, they say that the preheat is just about 60 seconds, but I'm doubting that you hit your target temperature in that 60 seconds. But we're going to see how long this preheat takes, and we're going to see what temperature things have reached according to my iGrill 2 after it has finished its preheat. Alright, seems like it took maybe 7 minutes or so. I'll have the exact time on the on the screen there of how long it took. But it thinks it reached 500. iGrill 2 feels that on that middle rack that things are just going over 400 now, just reached 400. It was like in the 390s when it felt it reached 500. Maybe the plate is hotter, or maybe it determines the plate is hotter, but the ambient temperature on the ambient probe is reading a little just over 400, reading just over 400 now. It's reading 421. It's still rising up, so time's still marching forward, but it has not reached 500 degrees yet according to the ambient probe. And so I'm just going to basically just feel the outside. The top is hot, the front hot, side hot, sides are hot, back is kind of hot. It's basically hot all over. Down there it's not hot down there, but things are hot all over. Alright, it looks like things have been going for maybe just about 10 minutes. And we just reached 500 degrees Fahrenheit on the iGrill 2. It'll be interesting to see if things keep going well above 500, or things trend down a little bit as far as the temperature, if it notices that it has really reached about 500. But obviously, since the temperature kept going up and up and up, even after it finished the preheat, I think that the cooker knew it wasn't truly at 500 degrees Fahrenheit in there, because it kept going up another over 100 degrees even after preheat. So I think it knew, hey, I'm not really at 500, but I've had them waiting a while, so let's get this show started. And I guess they feel that because of the design of the cooker that it can start like that at that point. But it's it's missing the mark, in my opinion, on the preheat. But I think for maybe the design of the cooker, it's probably going to go ahead and cook things up in an expected amount of time anyway. I know with the XL Pro air fry oven, it does like a quickie 90-second preheat, nowhere near target temperature when that preheat's done, but still the cook time overall ends up being comparable with a whole lot of other cookers anyway. So it's at 518 now, so temperature is still rising a little bit. It hasn't started to regulate the heat down a bit at all yet. Alright, so we're about 14 minutes in since we started the preheat, and things have been teetering between 518 and 531. Now it's holding kind of steady at 531. So it looks like, the cooker, once it gets up to over that 500 degree mark on that ambient probe there, it is holding well above 500. It doesn't trend down below 500 for a while, then try and pick back up again. It holds a pretty steady temp in that range. It's kind of showing between, I think the ambient probe's trying to keep up at this level of heat, but it's showing between 518 and 518 and 531. It keeps kind of flipping back and forth between, but it's holding things kind of steady up in that range. Alright, it's been about 17 minutes since we started the preheat, and it's been cooking on 500 for 10 minutes now. We're still teetering between that 518, 531, so this cooker does hold its temp steady once it gets up to that 500. That's pretty cool. I'm going to check with making adjustments on the fly. Let's say that I adjust the temperature down to 495. It does allow me to adjust that. I could adjust my time down to like 16 minutes on the fly. It lets me do adjustments on the fly. So that's pretty interesting. Now what I'm going to try and do, to pause, you're supposed to hit this button here to pause if you want to go in there. But I'm going to let things keep cooking like that, and I'm going to open the door and see what happens. Yeah, you open the door, it's going to keep cooking. You have to hit that pause button in order for it to stop. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stop the cook, and you can just you can stop it by just turning your time like down to 0. Well, I guess you can't. Just turn off, turn back on again. And let's hit the light button, see where our light's at. So the light is in there. Looks like it's kind of up in the back here. Yeah, the light's kind of up in the back over that way is where the light is. But now I'm going to check that toast time real quick. So if I go down the toast and I've got 2 slices, shade 4, and I hit start, it still says 338. So basically the cooker doesn't, for toast, it doesn't adjust for a hot cooker. It doesn't recognize it's hot and that it should make any adjustments. So that's pretty interesting. It did keep memory of my setting for toast. So let's say that I turn the cooker off. You know, it tells me it's hot. Alright, so I've let the cooker cool down pretty good. The fan ran for, I don't know, maybe it was 10 minutes or more, I'm not really sure. But basically when the fan went out, I think it may have been a little after that, or just as the fan went out, the display went out. I didn't notice when it changed to saying flip, if it ever did, but it was about 100 degrees in there when the display was off and the fan was off. So, you know, I guess I could flip it up now, of course, but I didn't, you know, see an indicator. I was expecting a steady indicator saying flip as soon as things had reached a suitable temp to flip, but it seems like the fan cut off, the display cut off, and it was still maybe about 100 degrees in there at that time. But, you know, it's all good. I'm sure I could, you know, probably have flipped it on up then. So I'm going to test something out. I'm going to unplug the cooker, and I'm going to plug it back in. And now that I've got it plugged back in, I'm going to turn it on. And I just wanted to check to make sure that it remembers my 2 slices, shade 4. And if I go over here to the dual heat side, it still remembers my 30 minutes, 500 degrees. But what I want to do now, I'm going to test air fry and heating things up at using air fry. So I've got air fry. I'm going to adjust the time up to 30 minutes, and I'm glad things don't beep when I'm turning the knobs. But adjusting the temperature, well, that I didn't want mode, I wanted temperature, up to 450, which is the max for air fry. And going to go ahead and start that. And we'll just kind of track how long it takes for things to, you know, reach the target temperature. Since it has a 60-second preheat, we'll just kind of, you know, see where things are once the 60-second preheat is over as well. Alright, so it finished the 60-second preheat, and the temperature in the cooker is just like 131, no, 140, it's like 143 or so when it finished that, you know, quickie 60-second preheat. And so I'm going to just let it continue to do its thing, and we'll see when it actually does get to about that 450 mark. Alright, so we've been cooking for not even 3 minutes, and things are already well over 450. We're over, like now we're over 470. We're at 477. So it doesn't take very long on air fry to get well up and over 450. It's even faster than the sear crisp was with the dual heat setting. So that's pretty interesting. And I'm guessing that air fry is only using the top heating elements, so that's pretty interesting. That's very interesting. The heat coming down from the top heating elements with that fan on the side. We're at 511 now. Hasn't even been 5 minutes. Not even a full 5 minutes since I started, this cook. And we're already well over 500 degrees. So air fry seems to heat things up faster than sear crisp. I guess with sear crisp, you do have the sear plate in there, and so I guess that sear plate blocking your airflow makes a tremendous difference in getting things up to temp. That's pretty interesting. Alright, so things have been in the cook phase for about 5.5 minutes. So I guess 6.5 minutes total now running. And the temperature just went down to 495, so it's adjusting itself down. I guess it wanted to be 450. And now it's like holding steady at 500 on the ambient probe. So, the cooker is basically holding a temp a little higher than the targeted temp. And I'm okay with that. I mean, it is a small cooker, so it should be able to keep a lot of heat in there, but I'm going to let it just run for a little longer. Alright, so I let things go in the cook phase for about 10 minutes. The ambient probe is showing 500 degrees. It's kind of teetered between like 490, 500, 513. Somewhere between like 490 and 513 is where it's kind of teetered. But I think that's kind of what you get for 450 with the cooker. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop it with that. Now, although the cooker is still hot, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about all the different functions this cooker has. It has over here the dual heat button. If you hit that, it goes to the dual heat mode functions. And so the first function there I wanted to talk about in some more detail was the sear crisp function. Sear crisp, it is made for searing larger proteins and can go up to 2 hours. The temperature ranges for that function are 250 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, if we scroll down, we get rapid bake. And with rapid bake, it mentions that you might give your dough an extra rise. It'll cook your doughs and things about 30 to 50% faster than the average box instructions. And it can go for up to 2 hours with temperature ranges between 180 degrees Fahrenheit and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. The next function we have is the frozen pizza function. And with frozen pizza, you basically get a cook of frozen pizza that should go between 30 to 50% faster than average, but use the box recommended temperature. And it can go up to 2 hours at temperatures of 180 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is the fresh pizza function, and with fresh pizza it can go up to 2 hours and cooks at 180 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we go over to, well, actually one more, we got griddle. So with griddle, it's made to brown your quesadillas or your sandwiches, and you cook for up to 30 minutes with temperature ranges of 300 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are all the dual heat functions, and you're going to typically have your sear plate in when you're using those dual heat functions. But now we're going to go over to the air oven functions, which I believe are single heat functions. And first one there is air fry. Air fry can go for up to 1 hour, 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Next we have air roast. Air roast can go up to 2 hours, 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is the bake function, and bake can go up to 2 hours, 180 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. The next is broil, and with broil you can go up to 30 minutes it has a high or low. I can switch to high or low, and the high is 450 degrees, the low is 400 degrees Fahrenheit for that. Next we have, let's click back on that, we have toast, which we were playing with earlier. You can do up to 9 slices as mentioned earlier with that. And next is bagel. Bagel can do up to 6 bagel halves, and you want to have them with the outside up. Our next function is dehydrate. With dehydrate, you can go up to 12 hours at temperatures of 85 degrees Fahrenheit to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is the reheat function. Oh, actually, I went out of order. That was, when I said for dehydrate, I had it on reheat. But basically, reheat is the next function that I'm going to talk to you about. And reheat, you can do 2 hours, 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry I had those just a little out of order there. But those are all the functions and their limitations as far as time and temperature goes. Alright, so now I'm going to do a toast test, and I actually have some store-bought bread here. After years of making my own, just got some low-carb store-bought bread to just, try something different out. But this is a low-carb multi-grain bread here. Nothing in this video is sponsored, by the way, not to cook or anything. So this is more the size of your bread many of you are more accustomed to. I'm going to stick it on in there and do a toast test and hit the mode button over here, go over to toast. Well, let's go. Oh, wait a minute, I have to hit the mode button. Yeah, there we go. Now on toast. And I'm going to leave it at 2 slices on shade 4. And we'll hit start there. And we'll let this go ahead and toast. I'll bring you back when this looks like it's done. Or basically when the time is up. Now I did want to jump in while it's toasting just to say something interesting. There's a fan that I hear running while the toaster's running. At first, when I started it, there was no fan running. But now during toast, there's a little fan action. That's interesting. Most cookers doing toast don't have a fan, but we'll let this continue. Alright, we're coming into the final seconds of the toast, and I'm starting to see smoke coming out from my toast. That's pretty interesting. So it's all done and got a nice waft of smoke as I open things up, and looks like my toast got cooked more in the back for sure than in the front. That's pretty interesting. And flipping the toast over, got some, nice grill mark kind of action there, but that's something to keep in mind. The cooker is definitely cooking more in the back than the front, and it looks like it doesn't hold in the smoke very well because smoke started spewing out of it there. So that's something to be aware of and to be cautious about. Alright, now I'm going to do a bake test with this cooker. I'm going to cook up some basically low-carb almond flour fudge brownies. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of the packs out of here, and I'm going to do the paleo preparation, where I take like 2 eggs, a 1/4 cup of water, and a 1/2 cup of oil. I'm going to use some extra light olive oil in here. And I'm basically going to mix this up in a bowl and then get it into my pan here. Then we'll get it on in there to do a bake test. Alright, so I caught the cooker at a moment where things cooled down and it said flip after I let things cool down. That's pretty cool. So it does show flip at some point there when things cool down, and I guess if you don't see flip, as long as it doesn't say hot, I guess you're good to go. But I've got my brownie mix here, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that into this small bake pan here. It's not a 13-inch bake pan, but a smaller one. Now I've got things in the pan, and this pan, or this bake dish, kind of has pretty high sides to it. So I'm going to put the rack, instead of using it on the middle, I'm going to use it lower just so that things aren't, you know, just nearly touching the top of the cooker there. And you see this dish kind of barely fits in. I'm not sure offhand of the exact dimensions of it, but it just barely fits in there. But at least it fits. So I'm hitting the air oven mode. I'm going down to bake. I'm setting the time. I'm gonna, well, actually, hit the wrong button there. But I'm setting the time up to, I'm not going to need 30 minutes, I don't believe. We're leaving it at 30. I keep on wanting to hit this to hit time, but I got to remember down here and it's time. And it should be 350 in a conventional oven, but they recommend you do about 25 degrees less, so I'm doing 325, 30 minutes. It'll probably go faster. It's got like a 60-second preheat, so no need in, you know, keeping things out till the preheat's done. But going ahead with that, let it cook, and bring you back when things are done, and we'll see what we have. Alright, these brownies have been cooking for 20 minutes, but I'm going to pause and just check them real quick, because I'm thinking they might be done, just possibly. They're looking like they might be. Let's see. No, they're not. Still all gooey in there. Whoopsie. So, they were looking like they might be, but we'll let them continue. Alright, I'm just going to add 5 minutes on the fly to take things out to 35 minutes of cooking time. So, it didn't let me, I guess, include my seconds, but I'll just leave it at 5 minutes. And, you know, we'll just say it's 35 minutes of cooking time or so. But, well, more than 30. So we'll just let it continue to run. I'm just going to make extra sure that they're done. But it seems like bake, you know, does work pretty much like a kind of like an oven bake. I did come in at a lower temperature than recommended, because the manual mentions that you should come in at a lower temperature than the packaging and such might recommend. So, you know, we're just going to make extra sure here. I don't think anything is getting burnt over at this point, so just let them keep on going, and then we'll see what we got. Alright, so let these brownies go for, I guess you could say, about 33.5 minutes, I guess. And we'll see what we have now. Let's see if I can get this out here. Kind of hitting the sides there. Alright, let's see. Comes out clean. So lowering the temp and, you know, doing about the average time recommended, you get things baked and they're nice and soft there, so our brownies look good. Alright, now I'm going to do a fresh pizza test. I'm using a pre-made low-carb crust dough. Got some chicken, some mozzarella cheese. I'm going to be using this roasted garlic and peppercorn like salad dressing as my base. But I'm going to go ahead and get the cooker warmed up, because it's got to do a preheat even though it's still hot in there. And so going down the fresh pizza, and I guess 20 minutes, it's going to be like quick, you know, it's going to go real quick. This time I'm going to need 10 minutes, not even. But we set it to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, hit start, and I like that little preheat indicator when it's all the way over. I know things are preheated. But I'm going to go ahead and build my pizza and then put it on in there when things are fully preheated. I've already got the sear plate in there, which you're supposed to use with pizzas to help get that bottom really nice and crisp. And so things should come out nice. But I'll bring you back when it's time to get it on in. Alright, preheat's done. Need to pause to get it on in. Slide it on in there. Close up. And I'll bring you back in a moment. I guess I can let you watch it cook, and I think this will go very quick. Alright, so we let it go for basically 5 minutes, and things are looking good, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it at 5 minutes even. So we're all done. No real smoke issues while the pizza was cooking. Everything looked fine. But that's our finished pizza there. I think that turned out pretty decent, but you can let me know your thoughts. So now I'll just go ahead and do the cut and slicing. I'm just going to go ahead and plate a slice here. There we go. It's got a pretty crisp bottom to it. Let me see if I can, yeah, it looks pretty well cooked on the bottom. Now while that's cooling a little, I'm just going to talk to you about cleaning the cooker a little bit. The air fry basket, you can put that in the dishwasher, but they recommend to hand wash it. I can say with most cookers, I put the air fry basket in the dishwasher after knocking the excess off all the time and don't have a problem though. The wire rack, you can put that in the dishwasher, but they also recommend to hand wash that. The sear plate should only be washed by hand, and the removable crumb tray should also only be washed by hand. The unit itself, you can just use some warm soapy water, no scouring pads, anything that's abrasive, and just wipe the unit clean, and then use a wet one to get a wet cloth to get the excess soap off and such, and let it dry. Alright, so let's taste test this pizza. Thank God for it. Alright, it turned out good. Has a crisp crust. So, you know, the cooker is able to do a nice job on a pizza. So, you know, a nice little slim cooker like that can do your pizzas up nice and do up other things pretty cool too. So, overall it works out pretty good. I do wish that the door when you open it would just auto pause. I mean, other Ninja cookers will do that. I don't know why, brand new cooker, they didn't just say, hey, have it auto pause when you open the door. But anyway, they do have a pause feature at least. You know, there's some cookers that have no pause feature at all. So they do give you some means to pause it. But overall, seems to work out pretty good. Now regarding the warranty with this cooker, it comes with a 60-day satisfaction guarantee if you get it from Ninja. If you don't like it within 60 days, they'll basically, like, I think on their dime, they'll let you ship it back and, you know, refund your money. But other than that, it has a 1-year limited warranty. And in the video description, you can find lots of ways to help this channel. There'll be, if available, a referral link for the cooker, and you pay the same price, help the channel. And also, you can always check out my blog, superwaveovenrecipes.com. Now, if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.